Join us for a full review of the Tesla Model 3 here on German roads. Let's go! The headlamps come standard with LED, and there's also this LED daytime running light. The headlamps even won a comparison headlamp test for very good illumination. And the interesting thing is that this car is not standing still. They are improving things on and on and on. This is really an interesting concept. It's both for exterior and interior features, actually. 4.70 m, 15'4", or 185 inches is the length of the Tesla Model 3, so that's the mid-size segment. And you can see here this floating design line, which really ends right there together. Chrome frame, very interesting. And the door handles, they are all integrated, and when you push them right here, then you can grab them. Yeah, I mean, why not? It's not that they are my favorite, but this integration is also quite interesting. Wheels come from 18 to 20 inch, 20 inch just for the performance version, and 18 inch would be these aero wheels, so they are aerodynamically optimized. They're also dark and it looks quite fancy. These here, they look cooler. These are the in between, the 19 inch. However, if you seek the most comfort, then stick with the 18 inch wheels because it only comes with a standard suspension. It's not adaptive. You cannot go for any optional suspension. So looking here at the rear, also a very simplistic design, not too much playing around with anything. And I think it's also a good design concept. By the way, since we do not show you any motor because there's no classic motor to be opened in the front, let's talk about the range and the battery capacity right here now. Either 55 kilowatt hours with the entry model and just rear-wheel drive, or 75 kilowatt hours with this one here, dual motor assist, because when we have one in the rear and one in the front. This is the long range model, and then the same setup for the performance model, which just is tuned a little bit higher software wise. And so the models also differ in speed, whereas the entry model is about 5.5 seconds in the acceleration figure. This one here is already about 4.5 seconds in the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. And the performance model is closer to 3 seconds than in the acceleration figure. So it's really strong here already with this setup here, so performance car-like definitely. And the range is about 550 kilometers or 300 miles plus with this one here, a little bit less with the performance model. And with the entry model, you're about 250 miles or somewhat 400 kilometers plus. And I also have everything here in the Tesla app. So this vehicle, I can see if it's opened or closed. I can open it here, for example, and I can also open the charge port right there. Open the charge port here, and there we go. And it's 11 kilowatt AC max and DC charging at the supercharger. And by the way, next to your smartphone, you have 2 of these key cards, and they are, let's say, secondary keys. And then there are 2 interior styles, either this one, the dark one, the black one, and there's also a brighter white one available, which I would prefer because it just looks fancier. And this is all animal free, so both steering and seating, here the seating in the leather red style, and also the soft steering wheel surface. This car is completely animal free. That's leading the way. That it's how it's supposed to be. It doesn't need to be, and no one feels difference. It's very soft and also high quality wise. And getting inside, typical mid-size vehicle, but of course not typical in so many other ways. So when I put the seat all the way down with 1.86 or 6'1", still have plenty of headroom to this panoramic roof. And here comes the review of the 15-inch Tesla monitor. Well, okay, there's a little bit more to that, but this is also one of the points. Again, here, reduced to the max, how simple and clean it is. That's awesome. This nice wooden decor element. Air vents is actually right there. Soft touch here on the top part. Then about the steering wheel, you have these commands right here and can set up everything. For example, here the steering wheel, and then this left knob here is being used to put it up and down, or also in and out when you move left or right. And then we go with the big screen. Here again, climate control like this, plus, minus, or like this, or then with the voice input. And this is actually working quite well too. You can always have these additional menus when you put this, for example, also and again the rear view camera, again so impressive to see that, or also the energy consumption. Oh yes, this was some Autobahn movement. I'll also talk about that when we drive the car. Here's the seat heating, and this is then the main car menu where you have all the settings and so on. On the left side, this always stays the way because the speed is always actually quite there. And then opening charging port, opening the rear trunk and the front trunk. You can also do it from here then, for example. And then here in the lower area, you can again move everything around. Here again, a camera hotkey. This one then for your current range. And this is the voice input. Drive me to Berlin Alexanderplatz. Seems that. Let's see, let's cancel all that. Yeah, here we go, Alexanderplatz in Berlin. And I mean, this was working quite well. So especially for GPS input, this is working very, very well. You can see when I have the seat set to my driving position, I could also drive it a little bit further. I have the steering wheel all the way out, but you see it does fit for 4 tall adults, no problem. And the same goes also for the headroom. It's quite closely with the panoramic roof, but it does work again for 4 tall adults. So this is the front trunk, and you can also actually unlock it with your app. Here we go, and it's actually quite plentiful. So the length here is just over a meter. And the width right here is like 80 centimeters in the bottom, but here in the top part it's more like 90 centimeters, close to a meter. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Tesla Model 3 long range. And yes, finally it's time. It's here in Germany on our roads, on our test tracks here. So we can really compare them all to, tons of other different brands and cars we've been driven on the very, very same test route. Last time, you might remember, we had the performance model. So if you haven't seen that one, tune into that episode later, also with the racetrack included. That was really very astonishing. Today, pure street focus, but we'll also floor it out on the motorway and see how does it do at higher speeds. So definitely a lot of interesting aspects to come. First of all, since this one is the long-range model and it's really about range and efficiency, let me start with that. I got the energy meter here on the big screen, and it shows me last 10 kilometers I have about an average of 153 watt hours on 100 kilometers, and that's about, just calculate in kilowatt hours because you usually would use that. That's of course then 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And the US figure, so to say, MPG figure would be that's about 25 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. And that shows you, I can even get lower. Now it's already at 14, 13 or 25 kilometers, about 17 here now. That was like a little bit more higher speed in there, but on 50 kilometers, the last 50 kilometers here says again 14.6 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So again, 14 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers or 25 kilowatt hours on 100 miles is a realistic figure, and that shows you that the official range figure of 300 miles plus and 550 kilometers plus is actually realistic for this long range model. And the reason for that is really that the electric motor in the rear, this permanent synchronous magnet, is really very, very efficient. Really cool stuff. And at the same time, you always have a lot of performance, if you like. And of course, the energy consumption also is being boosted up. One thing about this vehicle, we're driving it with 19-inch wheels. It does not have any optional suspension. Talked about it earlier, they go away where they say reduce to the max, which is kind of cool and also relaxing for the customer. But suspension is one of the weaknesses. I mean, it's not that it's like a super bad suspension or something, but when the roads are uneven, potholes and stuff, you feel it, especially here with 19-inch wheels, so you shouldn't go any bigger. I would actually take it probably with the 18-inch aero wheels. Yes, they don't look that good, but they give you more comfort in driving, and that's, I think, a big advantage. So if you compare it to competitors, the suspension is a weakness of this vehicle, or let's say where it's worse than the competition. It's not like, again, a bad thing, but worse than the competition. Really big acceleration. Driving acceleration standard. And then we can check it out. What about performance? By the way, I think it's not really very loud in this vehicle. We were about like 80 kilometers an hour, like 50 miles an hour, and it was really reasonably silent in here. Not only the electric car concept is bringing this silence, also noise insulation wise, it was all good. But now, German motorway, high speed, what is it doing? So we're accelerating from 30 kilometers an hour. Let's go. So that's 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles per hour. Now, of course, it's getting quite loud in here, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily much louder than in some of the other combustion engine cars. And I mean, especially the acceleration from the get-go was so super fast. Wow, amazing. Of course, this car is not set out to have like this high acceleration performance then in the higher speed areas, and it doesn't need to be. And let's see, like a realistic Autobahn speed would be about 130 kilometers an hour. So like, 70 to 80 miles an hour. And here I think, yeah, there's something maybe where the German competitors would be a little bit better. They have, it depends on, the thing is, you don't have an engine sound here. So this can also be one factor where you say you realize wind noise a little bit more. Then maybe like when you hear the combustion engine, it maybe evens it out a little bit. Yeah, but I mean, no matter what, the perceived sound here at 130 kilometers an hour, it's of course more silent like in a Mercedes C or E-Class or whatever, But I think that's not the point about this vehicle. So I think they've done a good job with noise insulation. It's not bad at all. It's also one thing, I think suspension and like the noise insulation, these are 2 points where the German competitors are still better in a way. Told you earlier about the build quality. This is getting better and better here, so I'm seeing less and less differences in this respect. And then so many other things are really like, wow, cool thing they have done here. Now you have also the lane keep assist is working. So that's when the steering wheel there is blue, this symbol, and now also lane is being kept. You might remember my Tesla Model S review from back in the days, like 2012 or 13, where the autopilot was still freely available, and I could take my hands off the steering wheel. It's not meant to do it like now. It will also say, Thomas, don't do that, just to show you that the car is being kept in the lane, like, as it's supposed to be. It's actually a quite good and smooth process. But again, here for safety reasons and no regulations for that in most countries yet. So one more acceleration here now from 90 kilometers when we're already at speed. What does it do? Still want to push. And now that's 180 kilometers, that's fine. And look how stable the car is still on the road. And this is a normal suspension, it does not react on the situation. And I don't have too much body roll. It's not too soft, it's not too stiff. Just the pothole thing, I talked about earlier, but here, and also then with the standard steering, when I do a lane change at higher speeds, it feels somewhat artificial, yes, a little bit, but very precise to control, and also the commands are being followed. See, like just slight steering commands and everything has happened. So, again, not the most natural feeling, but yeah, some spaceship kind of feeling, I would say. Now I lift the foot off the throttle, recuperation, now I'm gaining back a lot of energy. That's of course good, because when I'm driving so fast with normal vehicles, let's say normal combustion engine vehicles, the question is, what is normal? Yeah, normal is just what, it's also with a lot of bad things that are happening. Then people say this is normal, so I try to avoid that, so cancel that, what I said, because normal is just what the majority of people do at the given moment of time. So doesn't mean it's good or bad, you know. So let's say combustion engine, the energy would be lost now, but here now, like this, yeah, not very useful acceleration I did. It was of course here for the testing purpose. Again, at least I can gain back some of that energy right there. So that's good, you know. So very interesting again here from our driving perspective on the German motorway. So it performs even better here than expected. When I was driving it in France, also on the motorway, I couldn't drive so much high speed, but I'm really impressed what this car is also capable here on the motorway. And now to our conclusion for today with the Tesla Model 3. Yeah, that's the self-closing function, by the way. It also happens then when you move away from the car with your smartphone, when you have assigned your smartphone as a key. Exterior, it has quite some sensual forms. Of course, that's always a matter of preference if you think it's just, you know, visually pleasing or not. I think the Model S is a little bit more beautiful because of the longer hood and so on, but still I don't find it ugly at all. And of course here in the Thomas blue color, that's also something. Interior wise, I think it's one of the best interiors as for the visual part, because it's so clean. It's not that sensual, no, but it's super clean, and you know, you have the nice wood atmosphere, for example. I even more like it when it has the bright white interior, that's even fancier, and it's really reduced to the max. Yeah, a head-up display would actually be quite nice to have that, so you can maybe distribute this information a little bit better, other than that it has just this central screen. But it actually does the job. Most of the stuff you set just once, and then that's actually it. Yeah, a manual climate unit, that's something I would always be seeking. But if you rather have it in auto AC, then it's maybe not that big of an issue. The offering of space is also actually quite fine. You know, this electric car concept offers you a lot of space and room where you would usually put some stuff the combustion engine needs or something. So this is of course an advantage of this vehicle. So the whole concept of the vehicle is actually great. Then, as for efficiency, so that's really so cool. It's a very efficient electric motor, especially one in the rear. On the front also not too bad, but as it has this great efficiency, you can also score these very realistic range figures of 300 miles plus and 550 kilometers plus. So that's really realistic, and also for just everyday driving. And it's such a pleasant to drive this car. It's silent, not only because EV, also the noise insulation is quite good, yet it is super powerful. You don't even need the performance version for that. This one here, if you're really running it on highest kilometers, or if you think I don't want to recharge that frequently and maybe don't have the possibility at home yet, so I'm relying on, you know, superchargers and so on, then you need the longer range. If you can charge at home overnight and you don't have like very long hauls, you'll also be fine with the entry version of this car. And I think it's also really cool for the customer that it's kept simple. You don't have to configure like 3 hours this car. You just by the very fastly through the configurator, and that's fine. And I think that's also something, yeah, like a relaxing experience. So reduced to the max, I think the concept is actually quite good, something different, and it's one of the coolest cars on the market here at the moment. I mean, there's still some room for improvement here and there, but we've seen that the build quality also improved if you compare it to earlier cars we've seen of the Tesla Model 3, and that, you know, really leaves a very good outlook for this vehicle. And I mean, it's already now a very good success on the market. What do you think? Please also tune into our Tesla Model 3 performance review. Did quite well on the motorway, surprisingly good even at higher speeds on the Autobahn. but we already had tested it on the racetrack, which was also very cool. So check out the other review, and of course some comparisons of the cars, or maybe the combustion engine compares, the classic ones. We also have these reviews all out there. Looking forward to your feedback, and see you next time.